Hey everyone, Lawn Productions here, and today we're going to be going over the new GHPC update 2024-01-24, so 24th of January 2024. Also, before this gets started, if you've seen my videos before, you're probably like, what the hell's up with your mic? I'll just say this real quick. I'm recording from less than ideal conditions, so apologies for the trash can mic, but it is what it is. Either way, a regular update, Soviet Army, which is like, it's kind of funny that they phrase it like a regular update when, I mean, this is pretty big to be fair, but Soviet Army, which is a part of the roadmap. If we look at the roadmap right here, the early access roadmap, we scroll down, with basic campaign, we have fire support, but Soviets now have been added. So this is another section of this roadmap that we have. You can check this out on their website. I won't go through it today because it's not really relevant, but without further ado, we're going to skim through this. There's some really important things I'll go over, but then we'll hop into the game and check them out. But if you want to look at this, obviously it's going to be in the Steam update page for GHPC and also in their website. Right off the bat, new vehicle, T-64A tank for the Soviet forces. So this has a 125mm smoothbore cannon firing at 3BM32 APFSDS. Now this is important, okay, because if we go down here, 3BM32 will frontally defeat the M1 IP turret within around 800 meters and will defeat the M1 turret at up to double that distance, so 1600 meters. I mean, even in Abrams, you're going to have to worry. If you were facing a T-64A, you're going to have to be like a lot more conservative with your peeking or with your exposing yourself to this tank. That sounds a little bit weird, but anyway, we're gonna move on. The gunner slate has a split image coincidence rangefinder, which you can see down here in action. It's not the greatest example because you can barely see what's going on, but it's already in the game. This is the M60 RISE PASSIVE, so they actually just released a full guide on this thing, which is really cool to see. And it has the same mechanics, actually. You can see right here. In the M60, it's like blurry, and then when it's in range, it's in focus, I guess you could say. With this tank, it is different. So there's this line, a very fine line. I didn't realize it at first, but there are two halves to the circle, and you have to get them to line up, and then that's when they're in range. It's a little bit finicky. I'm going to be honest. The M60 is easier, believe it or not, and a little bit more reliable, but it's still a coincidence rangefinder, has the same ideology behind it. It is a carousel autoloader. It has a diesel engine, which sounds so good. You'll hear it, but it sounds really good. And then also, you're actually able to see in the model the late model composite turret with ultra porcelain ball array and cast steel. It looks really weird, but I guess it works because science. And skipping down here to the major features and add-ons, preliminary launch of Soviet Army GSFG with Soviet marked vehicle variants. Well, a mouthful. There are more Soviet vehicles still in production, and they will be added in the future, which, as you know, from the roadmap, obviously, but it's still worth mentioning. And Russian crew voices have been added for Soviet Army vehicles, so straight off the bat, we already have crew voices, which is really cool. And they're going to be giving targets in the whole compass system, which is a 60-degree or 60-unit circle with 30 at the whole front. There are already 3 new instant action missions featuring the T-64A and BMP-2. There's a T-64A training mission. And in the campaign, the Soviet Army now appears as the red team in 50% of the missions. So essentially, instead of just fighting the Germans, you're going to be fighting the Soviets as well 50% of the time. So literally half of the time, you're going to be facing either side. On-call artillery smoke shells are now available in more missions, which is cool to see. And then this is a really interesting one right here. So crew AI now attempts to relay spotting reports to HQ, and HQ relays them to platoons in turn. So even more important down here is it's dependent on the transmission delays, the crew remaining alive, and the radio being operational. So I guess before it was literally just the tanks communicating to other tanks. So it was kind of like nothing really to it. But now they have another level of intricacy. So this is going to have transmission delays. So there's going to be a delay between when they see it, when they call it back, and then when that HQ tells you or tells the rest of the team about what they spotted. It also depends on the crew remaining alive. So if there's like one person left in the tank, it's going to be slower. Or I guess it could also mean, depending on who operates the radio, it could be faster or slower. And then also the radio being operational. I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious one. But if the radio is gone, then I would assume they would not be able to communicate. So all of this together, it kind of means that you could, in theory, catch a tank off guard, kill it fast enough, and you will not have them let the rest of the team know where you are. And then the tactical map gets a little bit more love. So now the recent spotting reports and self-reports from enemy or friendly units are now in the tactical map. So the self-reports, I believe that just means your friendly units you can see where they are on the tactical map. And the spotting reports means they see something, they spot it, obviously. They call it out, but you're going to see it on the map, like where they call it out or what they call out. The exhaust effects have been overall to look more realistic, which is always cool to see. And then some things about restocking, which I never really thought about, but it's a pretty big change in the sense that you can now change the specific ammo type that you restock. So before it would just be you cycle through all of the ammunition. It was kind of like, I don't know if it was random or if it just went in order, but it wasn't really, you couldn't choose. So if you had like half ammo of everything, it would just go through them all and refresh them all, and eventually you'll have full of every type of ammo. But now you can choose like, hey, I only want heat. Okay, I'm only going to load heat, and I'm not going to waste time reloading things I don't need. Like if you have HE low and you don't need HE, then there's no point in restocking it. So now you can choose. But also, before, you basically should always have been restocking while you're, going around the battlefield. It was essentially a no-brainer. If you can just keep restocking and then you could just cancel out and just shoot at the enemy, then it's like, well, why wouldn't you be restocking? But now you have to return, or you have to finish that cycle in order for the crew to return to fighting positions. So you're going to want to make sure that now, if you're going to some place that you might encounter something, you're going to want to stop restocking, at least temporarily, so you're not going to be caught off guard. And then the miscellaneous changes, we have the modified field of view on most vehicle gun sights to match their real-world counterparts. And now the Soviet forces ammo selection will degrade with logistics losses. So from 3BM32 to 22 to 15. So from this insane round that we were just talking about up here, the 3BM32, down to 22 and 15, which are just worse rounds. So essentially what that means is you have an incentive to basically do as much damage as possible at the very beginning. I'm assuming this means the campaign. I'm not exactly sure. Doesn't really say. But also the 3BM32 and 22 could only be carried by Soviet Army tanks, so not East German in this case, which, that also just means if you see the East German side and not the Soviet Army, you don't have to worry about it all, no matter how strong of a force they are. Now, additional aircrafts are available for cast calls, which is nice to see, a little bit more variety. And we're going to skip all of this. You can read through this if you would like on their website. But on the fixes, buried in here is T-65A now has its engine smoke system. But either way, we're going to hop into the game now and test out these things. Sounds great, as always. I mean, the sound engineers in this game are just incredible. Let's check out this rangefinder as well. So we'll use these bushes as an example. There we go. Okay, so you can see the bottom half is now like offset. You can see when I like run through the line, like shift. So you gotta line those up. Looks pretty in line. So in theory, yeah, that worked pretty well. Let's go ahead and hear what this crew sounds like calling out some tanks. So let's try and... Yeah, you can see, I mean, it's like stuck. It looks the same here as it does there, so I'm gonna bet that it's like that. That was pretty close. Next one, all the way out here. Try and range that. That's all stuck, and then that looks pretty in line. Maybe like that? Let's try that. Oh, that dude's dead. That looks pretty in range. Try that. Wow, Can I just hit him? Oh my god, I think I just dunked on that dude. Is he still alive? He's still alive. Okay, well now he's not gonna be alive. Looks to be up there too. Looks good. Like that. Try that. Jesus, that looked like a ricochet, but it just absolutely obliterated him. And here's the engine smoke of the T-64, not T-55, we'll get that in a minute. Okay, so that's a pretty damn big wall. Pretty much the exact same thing, just out the side of the tank. And this thing looks so much like more stubby compared to the other tank. So thank you all very much for watching. Again, sorry for the mic, sorry for the few uploads, but other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. They do mean a lot, and they do help the channel quite a bit. And I'm going to keep on making content like this, so without further ado, I'll see you in the next one.